Yeah, I mean, it's a bold claim, but it seems it does. The liquid staking market got insanely competitive. Marinade and mSOL has been the #1 product out there. Now, there is no lockup.
Institutions are definitely interested. There's every reason for anyone to be interested in staking. There's a range of institutions. We're at about 200 basis points higher than the baseline. So that's, of course, very attractive. Any institutional investor, I'd say, has three things they're concerned with. I think it's just beginning.
Welcome back to Solana Floor. Today we've got something special because we're bringing you a two-part interview with Marinade, one of the OGs in the Solana staking space. First, I had the chance to speak with Michael, the head chef at Marinade, about their recent V2 upgrade and the competitive staking landscape on Solana. Then we caught up with Hadley, who spoke to us about topics like institutional adoption, staking strategy, and the new Marinade Dashboard. I have to say, being able to talk to both of these guests gave me a fairly solid understanding of how staking on Solana is evolving, and more importantly, a better gauge of the way institutions are likely thinking about crypto at the present time. So we're going to dive straight in because I'm itching to sort of get to the bottom of what's been going on with V2. You guys recently went live with V2. First of all, at a high level, can you explain what V2 is and maybe a bit about why it's a significant upgrade?
Absolutely. So currently we think of Marinade as a marketplace for Solana staking, but we certainly didn't start like a marketplace for Solana staking. Marinade started back in 2021, being the first one to introduce liquid staking on Solana with the token mSOL, which represents your staked SOL. And since then, we've been running for now 3 years, like completely open source, bootstrap without VC money. And we've learned throughout that time, we grew a lot, becoming the #1 project on Solana, and we also learned a lot. So while we dominated the liquid staking market, we understood that still most of the people staking SOL on Solana are doing it outside of liquid staking solutions. And to answer your question, I would say there are three main pillars of Marinade V2. And those three things were basically the biggest objections why people didn't want to use Marinade back then, or mSOL, or liquid staking as a whole. And I picked up the phone and talked to tens of maybe even hundreds SOL holders, asking them the same question: hey, why are you not using Marinade? What's keeping you from using liquid staking on Solana overall? And I got some ideas, I got the answers. So mainly this could be summed up as one, there is a smart contract risk. And back then, people were hesitant to use a smart contract for liquid staking. And even now, it seems that 95% of the staking market just doesn't use the smart contract. They don't use the liquid staking solutions. So that was one data point. The second thing was that there is a counterparty risk. So even now on Solana, if you decide where to stake your SOL, you can pick one of 1,500 villagers on the network. And it's almost a guessing game, right? Because you're not sure. Either you go with the biggest names, but that doesn't make the network very decentralized and robust. It makes the opposite. So it's this constant not knowing. So there is this counterparty risk. And the third thing that Marinade V2 addressed was the topic of, let's call the elephant in the room, the yield. So people expect the best yield by like the best staking rewards by staking their Solana, participating in the network, and getting those staking rewards in return by doing so. And we had this problem with, we call it stacked commissions, because with traditional liquid staking solutions, the protocols, the smart contract would charge a performance fee. So that would be one fee, and that would be on top of the validator's fee. So if you then combine these two fees together, you end up getting like multiplied fee, which means lower yield for the end user. So actually, people would be even better off technically to go without Marinade back then, trying to split their stake 100 times and manually move it around. I mean, it's tedious work, but technically people could do it and get more yield. So those were the three concerns and issues we've heard back then that keep people from using Marinade and keep Marinade from helping Solana at much bigger scale to make it more stable, secure, and censorship resistant, which is our ultimate goal from the very beginning.
If you had to put your finger on the single biggest, most pressing issue that people shared with you Was it the smart contract risk, or was it the yield, or which of those three issues was sort of the most common recurring theme?
Yeah, the most vocal, definitely the smart contract risk. But then obviously people would not tell you it's the yield right away to your face. You need to kind of figure it out. Nobody wants to say that they like more yield, but at the end of the day, it is part of it.
Do you see the staking sort of landscape in Solana as an increasingly competitive environment, or do you think that we're perhaps heading towards a bit of a shakeout where a few companies will emerge victorious?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. The liquid staking market got insanely competitive. So Marinade and mSOL has been the number one product out there for liquid staking since we coined the liquid staking on Solana. But now you don't have 1, 2, 3 liquid staking tokens. You have more than 30 liquid staking tokens on Solana. It's becoming very easy for any project, any validator just to spin up an LST and give it a shot. So insanely competitive on the liquid staking market, I would say. Very crowded, untapped on the native staking market, which is where Marinade V2 is heading to be the only non-custodial tooling for this Solana staking in an automated way.
Right, and then that sort of naturally brings us to the next conversation about yield. My understanding is that 10% is quite a bold claim to offer, and it makes you indeed extremely competitive. So does this make Marinade V2, first of all, the most attractive option for stakers in the current market landscape?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bold claim, but it seems it does. So currently right now, if we take a look at it, the best you can get if you go directly to the validator on Solana, it's 8%. And that's the validator that charges 0% commission, right? So that's theoretically the best you can get would be annualized 8% APY. If we look at the Marinade Stake auction marketplace today, it's currently showing something hovering beyond 9%. So there is additional 100 bips, like up above, compared to the best public rate on the market, which is the result of like maximally competitive market where validators bid each other, and then the stake would be allocated to the most performant ones.
Do stakers need to sort of lock their funds up for any long term? Is there like a unbonding period?
No, there is no lockup. So just like traditional staking, if you decide to go for native staking, there is maximum of 2 days unbonding period. So just like classic staking. And with mSOL, you can get instantly out with liquid staking.
And going back then to the stake auction marketplace here, what are the main benefits of doing it this way? How is the system more beneficial to the average guy?
So when we were designing even the stake auction marketplace, this new delegation strategy, we are thinking of 3 ecosystem partners. And that's the delegators, then the network, and the validators. And we really believe that this new system brings some kind of value to all these 3 ecosystem players. So that's the ultimate promise. And it seems now that having 100 bips higher than what you can get publicly stands to the promise. But then there are like other things to the delegation strategy. So for example, it would delegate to at least 50 validators right now, so no less. It makes the network then more resilient, more decentralized, because it doesn't just concentrate the network at one big validator. Actually, almost all participating validators, to my knowledge, in the new delegation strategy are out of the super minority, so are not the biggest 20. So it's helping the network too. And all this together, I think, is a genius play, and we'll see how it plays out.
Michael, thank you for taking the time to explain these developments to us. We're definitely going to be catching up with you very soon, I'm sure. Next, we're going to hear from Hadley Stern, who's going to get us up to date on all the exciting developments that are happening in Marinade on the institutional side of life. We're here with Hadley Stern. Hadley, welcome to Solana Floor. It's great to have you on. And we're going to discuss, personally, one of my favorite topics, which is the intersection of TradFi and DeFi.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. First of all, it's great to be on here and meet you, Jack, and talk about this space.
Before we get really deep into Marinade, I just want to ask you, do you think staking is becoming more of an attractive bet for institutions? And is this the case specifically over the last couple of years?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think institutions are definitely interested. There's every reason for anyone to be interested in staking. Yes, there are the economic incentives, which of course drive a lot of what we do in the world we live in. But there's also supporting the network and helping harden these networks. institutions are absolutely interested. It's just a matter of getting through the regulatory hurdles and legal hurdles of how to product and sell this.
I'm curious, which institutions would you say are most bullish on crypto at the moment? And maybe you could also tell us which institutions are really sort of leading the charge when it comes to TradFi's exploration of things like staking.
Yeah, so on the crypto front, I mean, it may be a little biased, but I have to go back to my roots. And at least in the US, Fidelity remains a leader in this space. Other institutions that have been forward thinking are also Bank of New York Mellon, Citi, Invesco, and some other players as well. So I think and Franklin Templeton, there's definitely, it's not just Fidelity. There's a range of institutions, TradFi institutions that are seriously involved and selling product and also looking at doing more. At the same time, I think it's just beginning, in terms of the technology. Those are the ones who are really leading the charges on staking products while we have some of this regulatory clarity that's needed.
In your sort of experience over the last days, weeks, months, talking to institutions about staking and Marinade and the stake auction marketplace, is the stake auction marketplace making the idea of staking more attractive, more palatable to institutions?
I'd say it's an interesting nuance for them. I think they have to get over the hump with just staking in general. I think what's attractive about the stake auction marketplace, obviously, is that right now we're at about 200 basis points higher than the baseline. That's, of course, very attractive to people. And then the fact that Marinade is software only, there's no smart contract risk. You maintain its custody agnostic is also very appealing and very important for institutions. Any institutional investor, I'd say, has three things they're concerned with in order. The first is the regulatory legal status of who they're doing business with. The second is security, especially in a post-FTX world. Are my funds safe? And then the third is the reward that they're getting. So we're able to answer 1 and 2 very clearly and have the best story on number 3.
I want to ask you very briefly about some of the exciting things that you guys are building at Marinade. I've heard about a dashboard. So could you talk me through that Marinade dashboard, please?
Yeah. So one of the pieces of feedback that we get that I'd say is pretty common challenge in the staking industry, whether it's ETH, whether it's Solana, is how are my rewards coming in? When can I see those reflected? What's actually happening to my wallet balance? Because now, as you know, staking rewards aren't necessarily a send-receive transaction where you can just load up your wallet and see your rewards come in. It's more added to the balance. It's a different type of transaction, and most interfaces do not know how to translate that for users. So, we've seen some instances in the industry where people are not sure they're even receiving rewards because the interface doesn't break it down for them. It's just their wallet address grows, but it grows in de minimis amounts, and so it's not clear. So we're working to address that with some UI and dashboard features. So we're working on that, and also believe there's some opportunities to visually portray what's unique about Marinade, this ecosystem of validators that we're running. What's the interplay of that, and what does that look like with the stake auction marketplace?
What are you guys going to be focusing on most heavily over the next 12 months as far as things that we can look forward to hearing about?
I think you're going to continue to hear the stake auction marketplace story is just beginning. That's an experiment that's launched and has been successful. So I think that's going to continue, and those market dynamics will continue. On the institutional side, continued focus on security. That's always going to be something that we have to be, all eyes on in terms of security, which I realize doesn't sound incredibly sexy, but it's actually fundamental to user, obviously the strength of the network and the strength of this ecosystem. And then I think on the more secret side, I'd say, without giving away too much, it's focusing on where we can leverage the unique network that we have between validators and end stake users and help make everyone's lives better, including the validators.
All right, Hadley, that's unfortunately all the time we have today. I want to say thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us today. And I look forward to catching up with the both of you very, very soon.
Great. Great. Thank you very much for your time, Jack. It was a great
Thank you so
conversation.
much.